Hello, I am Xarkun, and this is World of Warships Legends on PC. What you see here is a game in one of my favorite ships, HMS Rodney, during the Steam beta over the weekend running March 12th through March 14th. This beta, unlike the last Steam beta for Legends, which I think happened sometime in May of 2025, that one was separated from the live servers. This one was on the live servers, and I was able to sync my account and get access to my full fleet of ships, which is why I'm playing one of my favorite ones, HMS Rodney, in this battle. And it's a pretty good battle. It's probably the best one I had over the weekend on the Steam platform. I have a lot of other battles recorded, actually, most of them in the Aki, because I was trying to get a video where I could talk about how perfectly balanced the Aki is. And while I got some good games, I don't know that any of them show how perfectly balanced that particular vessel is. But this one in Rodney is pretty good, although it does start off a little bit slowly here. You see we spawn in the center. We're kind of heading back. We don't know exactly what's out there yet until these destroyers start getting vision of more enemies. And there are 4 destroyers to worry about, which, makes it perhaps a little bit difficult to push in. But don't worry, we're going to find a way. As we do and we get situated here to turn back in toward all of the action, I'll go over a couple of notes I have on the Steam version. You can see from the UI here that things are a little bit different than what you'd see on console. Minimap is in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen instead of the top left, and in its place on the top left-hand corner, we've got the damage count and the kill count once we sink a ship. Ribbons are still in the top right. The compass, I think, and the throttle locations are a little bit different. Consumables and armament types are basically in the same place. Very familiar if you've played Legends on console. My only real complaint about the UI in battle is that there doesn't seem to be a way to permanently increase the size of the minimap from what you see here, and I think it is a little bit small. If you hit the F key, it will maximize the minimap to a size bigger than what you could set it to on console, but only while you're pressing the F key. I think there needs to be some sort of middle ground where we can increase the size of that minimap because it just seems a little bit too small to me, but that's really my only complaint about the UI in battle. As for the rest of the Steam beta, it looks like this thing is pretty much ready to go for launch. I didn't experience any crashes, any kind of weird things. It seems to hold up at 60 FPS, although I don't have anything counting the frames. Graphics look very much like they do on console. The only things that I really had a complaint about were the port UI. There's not any obvious way to get into the ship info page while you're looking at a ship in port. I figured out you can just click on one of the consumables or one of the weapon types, and that'll take you into the ship info page, but it's a bit unintuitive. And the other thing I ran into was, I think, a bug where I was messing around with a commander build, and I was trying to switch out one of the inspirations and boost it for immediate effect. You know how if you have an inspiration and you switch it out, you've got 2 choices. You either wait like 5 battles for the inspiration to take effect, or you can boost it to take immediate effect with Commander XP. The game would not allow me to do that boost for some reason or another, and it's not because I'm out of Commander XP. I have like 4 million of it, and it costs 21,000 to boost. So there was some sort of bug in there, but that was the only bug I encountered in my entire time playing the beta on Steam over the weekend, and I'd say that's relatively minor. I assume it'll be fixed by the full launch, whenever that launch is, and it was a real novelty to play this on PC. The controls are much like what you would expect if you played WoWs on PC, the original World of Warships that came out in 2015. The one thing that did trip me up, though, is by default, for some reason, the right mouse button is for holding down to open up the binoculars, while the shift button is a toggle of the binoculars. I don't see why both of those things are necessary on the default control scheme. I had to remap the key bindings to make the right mouse button do the overhead camera, as it does on PC. But the ability to rebind keys. You know, that sort of solves the problem of the default keys being a little bit peculiar. Other than that, no complaints. I found it very fun to play this on Steam, and I don't know if you're an exclusive console player that has never played World of Warships on PC and you try this thing out when it comes released, you might have, I don't know, maybe some growing pains with controlling your ship using a keyboard and mouse instead of a controller, but I've played WoW's PC so much that just feels like doing that. So it was easy enough. Anyway, we should talk about this battle because now the action is really going to start. And you might think I should have shot at that Kagro over there, but, well, in retrospect, it wouldn't have mattered. We get our first kill of the game there on York. Pretty much knew we could take him out. We overmatch him everywhere. There's just no chance. Rodney's very accurate with its Soviet dispersion gimmick this close up. And, well, both teams have lost only 2 ships, and there are still 9 minutes left to go in the battle. A very rare thing on World of Warships Legends, especially during the weekends. Usually the battle's decided within 6 minutes, but this one, it could go either way. Although the blue team does have some stuff going for it. The entire red team is concentrated in this area of the map. We've got 2 out of 3 of the caps, and so we do have the win conditions secured, which is probably why the friendly Iowa, who's way, way behind me back by the alpha cap, is going to be spamming the comm wheel and telling me to get back. That's not terrible advice on its face. Once you have the win conditions like this, with 2 of the caps and all the enemies in one portion of the map, it's not really a great idea, generally speaking, to push into the enemy and give them the advantage. Probably what you ought to do is play safe and have the enemy push into you. It's sort of incumbent on them to start taking back the capture circles and or sinking you or your teammates when they're in a situation like this. But Rodney is a ship that is really fun to get into brawling range with, especially because of the bow nuclear torpedoes that hit for like 30,000 damage. And that's what I really wanted to do. Plus, the 2 remaining enemy destroyers, they are not much of a concern to me. The Kagro is all the way on the other side of the map, being pursued by whatever cruiser is in the enemy spawn between Alpha and Bravo. He's no threat. And then the Tier 6 French destroyer, he's over there shooting at our last, or one of our 2 last remaining blue destroyers. I think he's going to take him out, but he doesn't exactly have the longest torpedo range. We're so specced into concealment that we can have a good idea if we get spotted by him, whether we're in danger of being hit by his torps. And I think Rodney and Nelson, the ships like this with all the guns on the front, they do allow for dodging torpedoes pretty well. You just do a basic zigzag maneuver, and that can throw off a lot of destroyer torpedoes, which I think is going to come in handy a little bit later. Anyway, Picardy over here, which I think started off on the same side of the map we did, finds himself all the way over here and goes down to one of our teammates, netting us our second fist of the game. But here is Chumfan, a very lightly armored cruiser that, well, 1 salvo is all it takes. 2 Citadels, devastating strike. Rodney accuracy is lovely at these kind of ranges. And all that's left now, after doing 3 kills and 120,000 damage, is HMS Collingwood somewhere behind this smoke screen, the Kagro somewhere near the Alpha Cap being pursued by that cruiser, and then the last remaining enemy destroyer somewhere over here. Now, of course, Collingwood stands 0 chance against us whatsoever. He has no armor that can protect him from the salvos unless the shells hit the torpedo protection or the belt armor at the waterline and shatter. I think that's what happened there with those 2 shells, but otherwise we can overmatch his armor scheme everywhere, especially through the bow. We don't even need this torpedo that we sent his way. He just goes down with another Citadel right through the bow. We have the high caliber Confederate and the devastating strike medals with 139,000 damage done and 4 kills. So of course it is Kraken alert time. And it just so happens that there's 1 enemy ship left in the vicinity, being the French destroyer that we saw earlier. Now, of course, he is within, I suppose, danger range. We do have our build set up. I'll show it to you here, actually, and you can get an idea of what the port UI looks like. We've got the standard mod selected, and then for the build, it's John Fisher with both inspirations for Concealment, Kondo, and Azerlane Sovetski Rossiya, I believe, giving us 11.8 kilometer detect, which means whenever we're spotted like this, we know a destroyer is probably within torpedo range of us. But as you can see, we're able to mitigate a lot of the torpedo damage just by changing the course about every 20 seconds or so, zigzagging back and forth, and we've got this destroyer teammate in the form of the HMS Lightning coming up to support us. We did manage to get hit by one torpedo, but doesn't matter, the flood's not going to last too terribly long, and when it's finished, we can just activate the super heal and reprint roughly a third of our ship, no problem whatsoever. And now that we know the general direction of the enemy destroyer, he's somewhere in front of us, either to the left or the right, we can continue to zigzag and we can likely avoid his torpedoes. For whatever reason, HMS Lightning decides to deploy a smoke screen for our benefit. I don't really intend to use the smoke screen, I just sort of want this Lightning to find this last target so we can get our Kraken. And, that's fine. Lightning is now in front of us, so hopefully he'll be able to find the target. We see some torpedoes coming from sort of the left-hand side, so we know the destroyer is there. We're going to turn in that direction. I don't know if he'll have torpedoes. That was one set. I believe the French can launch 2 sets off one side of the ship, and then they've got wing torpedoes, so they'll launch one off the other side. There he is. He's about to go behind the island, taking a shot as he goes. His torpedoes are going to come nowhere near us, but it did look like Lightning was in danger. Maybe not. He does dodge. And now we can expect that the destroyer is going to come around the corner. Lightning's going to spot him. So it's just a question of can we sink him and get our Kraken before we win the game? And yes, we can. There's the destroyer completely broadside to us. We loaded HE just for this occasion, and there's the Kraken unleashed. Probably the first Kraken I've got on WoW's Legends while playing it on PC. And a pretty good game with 143,000 damage done, all the medals you could ask for, 3,400 base XP, and like 1 million credits earned. So pretty fun match in one of my favorite ships in the game. Hope you enjoyed this little look at WoW's Legends on Steam. I have no idea when the full release is coming, but judging by how the game seems to function on the platform, I would say it's soon, and I'll probably play it from time to time since you can sync your account from console. It's very nice. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.